Welcome to Mega Path Presents. I'm Ronny Haze, and today we got Doomsday Kingdom, issue number 1, audio commentary by writer and creator Ronny Haze. That's me. And then next week, next Saturday, we're going to have part 2 of the audio commentary with the artist. And this gets a little tricky. I tried recording this before, but there's just so much, and I keep kind of, diving into the art and other things. So the way I think this is going to work, this part will go over strictly the writing. We'll save the art stuff for part 2, and then maybe if we have questions that are in this part and then part 2, we'll pull those questions for a commentary part 3 and put that out like the following Saturday. We'll try to keep some of the Doomsday Kingdom updates on Saturdays because Sunday is the live stream, and then Monday through Friday we're working on getting daily content. But anyway, for any newcomers, we just added some more stock of our comics. The day-night variant, the blank variant sketch cover, the signature series for issue 2 with the goodies, and then the signature series issue 1, the last remaining few. Issue 1, the official first print signed by Ronny Haze, all that stuff, plus issue 1 second print with a different variant cover. That's all restocked, and everything that's on the website at this time is in hand, so it'll ship the next day, except for Sunday. There's no mail on Sundays. I wanted to go over the issue, the entire issue, literally from the front cover to the back cover. But we're going to save the front cover, the back cover, and then the interior inside covers for when we talk to James, the artist. And it does have something interesting because this wasn't the original cover. The original cover was supposed to be a feeding post with the prisoner on it and then zombies in the background. And then James ended up sketching this. We ended up liking this, and we thought, well, we'll release them at the same time. That way we still have the feeding post displayed heavily on the day-night variants. But because of how much it cost to print them and doing it indie, we actually had to release this a couple months before we released this. So that's a little peek into the art there. But like I said, there's a lot more to discuss, and if you guys are interested, we'll go over the barcodes and stuff like that, because we did buy this. We didn't just make it up. We did buy this, and then we used a comic barcode generator because there's a code here. It's issue 1, the first cover and a first print. If it was a variant cover, there'd be a number 2 on that page. Anyhow, and there will be spoilers because we're going to dissect the story as far as the writing goes, but the story opens with the writer, who's now captured, or seemingly captured, and he is being told that he was being watched when he was tying his prisoner up to the feeding post. So then when you turn page 1, you get the writer and his prisoner, and all he wants to do is tie his prisoner to the feeding post. If you guys have been on this channel for a while and you've stayed up to date with Doomsday Kingdom from the beginning, the original concept was a movie, and then 2 movies, then 3 movies, then 5 movies. Then it became a novel because there's no way I was going to be able to sell that or make that as a movie. But a novel I can do. So as a movie, this was supposed to have no dialogue. It was supposed to open up with just the writer and his prisoner, follow them through, and then he was going to get captured by the Guardians, and then he has this conversation. He's interrogated after this happens. Then, once I went from a movie script to a novel, I kept that format. This happens, then he's captured, and then this happens. Because it works. With a novel, you can talk about the wind shifting. You can talk about how he felt when he thinks he's walking into a trap. Like, you can go over, what he sees, what he hears, even how he feels. So when I was looking at the story and trying to put it into a comic book, this originally wasn't issue number 1. Issue number 1 originally should have started with this. Issue number 2, page 2. Starts with Tristan and his family. We got Tristan, Rebel, we got Lazaro and his wife and their kids, and then Julie, that's Tristan's daughter. That's Tristan's sister. They're at a fireworks show. So that's how Doomsday Kingdom should have started, okay? But I started focusing on the idea that issue 1 is always so important just because it's the first issue and they usually print the least amount of copies. So clearly issue 1 will be far more expensive because there's less out there on the market. And since issue 1 is always where it all starts and it is the most collectible, the most valuable, usually, unless there's crazy variants or something like that, I wanted issue 1 to be special within the story story as well as being an issue 1 special. So I found a point in the story far into the future, let's say, without spoiling anything that's not been revealed yet, let's say 5 to 15 years after this. I found a moment in the story. Now keep in mind, I already had 5 movies that got turned into 3 novels, a trilogy novel, that I was outlining into right now. Let's just say the rough outline is 250 single comic books. So I looked around issue 100 and I said, I found this feeding post moment and I thought, there it is. Why? Because throughout the story from 1 to 125, we're going to discover this house. We'll see how this car gets there. We'll see how those bullet holes get there. We'll find out whose grave it is in front of this house. And we'll find out who the guardian is and why he's coming to this grave and yada, yada, yada. So all throughout the story, we'll slowly see the feeding post, for example. We'll see that being put in the ground and who puts it there and whose body was killed there first. Later in the story, you see there's a body there. So that's how my brain was thinking. I was like, oh my God, that is a great place to start. Because now the way I can tell this story, we will constantly be coming back to the feeding post. And this does play an important part in the story because at this moment, whatever happens here with the Guardian is going to lead to the end of the story. So it is structured purposefully. But back to when I'm first putting it together, in a comic book form, I really did consider having no dialogue for the writer and the prisoner and letting it play out, just like the script, just like the novel, and then he gets captured, and then having him talk to the Guardian leader. However, for a comic book, it would have been too thick. It would have been like a double issue, and it just did not flow because of how comics work. It did not flow as well as when it was a movie script and a novel. It wasn't there. So what I did is I took this moment in time and I combined it in this moment of time. So when you start the story, he's already captured. His eyes are closed. And then he opens his eyes and the Guardian leader is asking him about this moment. The Guardian leader was in the woods watching this go down. He's over here in the woods watching this go down. You know what I mean? So let's go to the first words spoken. And this is also obviously done on purpose for everyone who figured it out. The very first words, who are you? In the end of the issue, we hear the Guardian leader say, I need to know about you, the writer. Who are you? So it comes full circle. It begins with who are you? It ends with who are you? And this was important because this is issue 2, page 1. I wanted it to look a little snappy and be a little bit different when you bought the volume. So when you open this up in issue 2, page 1, you probably think like, oh, that's a weird page 1. Like, what is that? There's no real dialogue. There's no real, it looks like a poster. It's kind of confusing. But it's done purposefully because once you read it together in a volume or reread the story, you get, well, obviously, who are you? Who are you? And then it scrolls over here. This is him thinking back about everything that's happened to him, every event he's been involved in. We have the basically symbolic image here with the rider, a lot of zombies, a city. We have this clown here saying, what, not funny? We got the Doomsday cowboy with gold in the city. We have this, the rider next to a burning house with body bags. Ooh, what happened there? And he looks very different, so compare him to what you know of the rider when you get your issue 2, because there's something odd there. There's a clue there. He's in issue 3. This is a very important image. It's also something we used as a promotional image. You know, the poster with the king? Here, I got one here. This is actually my binder, my Doomsday Kingdom binder. But this is one of the promo images, one of the very first promo images that plays an important role in the story. And I love the idea that this was kind of one of those weird images to promote the comic where people were like, man, what does that mean? It is awesome looking. You can use it as a poster. But it also is my Hodor moment in the comic. One of those moments where you see something, like for him it was his name, and then you don't think it really matters, but maybe it does, and then you find out later it had way more of an important meaning than you realized. This is my Hodor moment, or one of them. In issue 2, we get Every kingdom needs a king, guy up here, and then the zombie king coming out. This is symbolic. This will be one of a major point in the story, one of my all-time favorite moments in the story. So anyway, you have him saying, who are you? He thinks back about all these events, and this is page 2. We're finally in the past, before it all started, at the fireworks show, and Tristan's sister says, who are you? Really hinting here. Plus, if you look at Tristan and look at the writer, there's just way too many hints. We really want you to think something, I feel. Anyhow, so when it opens up here, his eyes are closed, and he says, who are you? Nobody. We both know that ain't true, yada, yada, yada. And then he opens his eyes, and this is the point of view of the writer. He sees his bloody hand, and then we see his left hand is injured with an arrow in it. And then the doctor cuts the arrow, and he rips it out. This part I might change if we get it published or reprint this. I tried to do this just so the readers wouldn't get too confused, and they would realize everything in green is the Guardian Leader. Everything in red or this brownish color, the box, is the rider. They're helping him. They're taking the arrow out. They said, we are not the ones who attacked you. And then you turn the page and you jump right into the story with the rider and the prisoner. And see how it's green? And it says, who is your prisoner? And then down here. And again, this is if you're writing a comic. You want to control your reader's eye. So top left corner, who was your prisoner? Your reader's eye is going to go here to the rider, to the horse, down to the prisoner, and it's following it because you have just someone who needed to die. It's not like you did your words like over here and then your words over here and then your reader was going all over the place. No, it's they turn the page top corner and then they go right down. I don't do it perfectly, to be honest, but I feel like I have a good hang of it here. How he talks is important, I feel, because there's real subtle hints there. Maybe some of them are too subtle. He says, I didn't believe my eyes at first when I saw you too. Just so strange, especially since I also was headed to that house. For a different reason, clearly. But there you were, the rider on his horse and his hopeless prisoner. But why here? Why this place? And this, how he talks, he's interrogating the rider, sure, but he's also interviewing him. And he also knows more than he's letting on to both the rider and to us, the reader. The Guardian Leader knows more than we realize. Like I said before, this is also purposefully done because there is history here. We have history here, the prisoner and me. We're going to see the origin of all of this. We will see what happens in this area. And then he's scouting around. We have the Guardian Leader saying this is where he was headed before he spotted the rider. And he said, I was going to that cross. Somebody he lost important to him died here, and this is where he comes once in a while to pay his respects. We'll see why he refers to him as a piece of shit. And then he says, my friend, and we're going to see them grow a friendship. But he's dragging his prisoner to this feeding post. And then we realize right here, a long time ago, the prisoner was the one putting someone on the post. So now we know a little hint that in the beginning, the origin of the feeding post, it was the prisoner who may have originally killed somebody here. So it's like his karma coming back around. Prisoner just whacks him in the nose, being a dick, because he can't really escape. He does get beaten much, or a little bit. This page we'll discuss when we get to the art, but I loved how it is set up. And this is the one that I specifically did panel-wise and asked the artist to make it like this, because you got the big end, and then you go small with the words, and that's on the feeding post. That's the only place he should die, is what he's saying. And then you got the click, click, and you go to the small end. Your eyes go to the big end. It goes up to the words. It's what he deserved at the big end and down. I love how that flows. And it just goes zip. And then allow me to invite your dinner guests. Here's another little hint that I'm not sure if anyone really picked up on, but normally people say, come here and get fresh meat or something, to monsters and zombies and shit. But these zombies are different than what we've seen in regular zombie movies. They do bite the same. They are biting, they are tearing at meat and flesh. They'll rip your guts out and this, that, and the third. But they're more like vampires to a degree where they really want the blood. They focus on drinking the blood. And we see that hinted at heavily in issue 2 and then even more in issue 3. And again, there's a reason for all that. And this right here wasn't even in the script. This is only because when the artist did it, it made it look like he was playing peekaboo. And I thought that was too good to pass up on. So we have the peekaboo creep. His original name was Legbone, I think I called him, because his leg here is so rotted. Plays a part later on. But here's the rider with the prisoner on the post, and he looks down. Here we have history. There's bones. Somebody the prisoner killed originally on the feeding post, and it just makes the rider more confident that this is how he should die. And this is one of my favorite pages. I love this page overall. The dialogue, the way it looks and everything. He says, "You're going to die today for everything you have done, past and present. The choices you made brought you here, same for me. The last thing you'll hear will be your own screams as you're eaten alive." I love that moment. And then he just walks away. Like, that's it. My job is done. You got Legbone coming to get him. That's the peekaboo creep. And this is where we get more of a clue that he's being watched. We're going to see this again through the Guardian leader's perspective. But the one page that is missing here that we will see later on through the other perspective, when the rider goes, he's walking towards the horse, and he turns around and he looks at this zombie getting closer to the prisoner, and his leg bone snaps right in the knee, and he falls down. And the rider sighs, like, oh, come on, I don't want to wait all day. And then the zombie, the creep, looks up and starts crawling towards, like a friggin' Terminator or something, starts crawling towards the prisoner. And then the rider turns around. But anyway, so that we'll see later. But the rider turns around and he gets a little lovey-dovey with his horse. He loves his buddy. If you notice, really faint, there's the image right there of someone standing by a tree. It's right there. And I wanted it, I told James about it too, I wanted it so faint. I'm tired of Hollywood putting shit out so in the open. And then if you look, he just has a shadow of an arm going, because he's hiding behind the tree. He's ducking out of the way. And I did change this dialogue because it was so hidden. I wanted to add a little clue. So I did add that little clue in the words. The wind shifted. It brought a vicious stench of death with it, coming from... dun dun dun, and this is where things start changing course, and the rider didn't expect it, right behind me. And we don't see the roof of the house, but just to clarify, there's a storm broke part of the roof. It was all designed, but it just didn't fit in showing it. I don't know if maybe we see it earlier. Okay, yeah, you do get a hint of it. There's a part of the roof that's broken, so when the horse gets tied up by the car, the rider's over here. The woods are over here where, off screen, somewhere down in here, actually farther out. And the wind shifts. The rider's looking towards this way, and the wind shifts, and he can smell dead people in that house. But nothing happens. He turns around, and it's like, wait, what? And I envision this being kind of a comedic moment. And I just want to, before I say anything else, I just want to say, there is an actual practical reason for the rider and the prisoner to have both their faces covered, as well as a reason in the story. I honestly, as I wrote it in a script, it just bothered me that, because originally the prisoner didn't have a sack on his head, but it just bothered me that Hollywood, even though these are years apart, Hollywood would probably film this. And don't ask me why. I didn't think I was going to actually sell it as a script. I just really was passionate about it. But I also thought if Hollywood made this, they would film this scene, and then they would film, the other stuff. And then years later, they would age and come back to this moment. And when you watched it, it would look so weird because the characters would be aged. So to solve that for them, because I have no faith in them, if it ever got picked up, at the time, that's what I was thinking. I put a sack on the prisoner's head only because it keeps his age hidden as the actor. I had no intentions to keep that a secret. It was only until I put a sack on his head. He always meant to have this mask. That's a motorcycle helmet I saw in Raleigh, North Carolina a long time ago. Once I put the sack on the other guy's head, that is what gave me the idea, oh my God, I can make this a mystery. Who's the prisoner and who's the rider? That's why you see me dropping different weird clues, because it's interesting. Anyhow, plus it's also fun. Anyway, so he turns around and he notices something strange. He says, my focus tightened on the door, something wasn't right, and he notices this rope. It's tied around the knob and it's tucked in the crease. And then that's when someone yanks the rope from behind the house, pulling on the door, and it rips the floor mat up. And then nothing happened. And I could picture this. Imagine if you have a guy on, if you're filming a movie and the guy smells something, turns around to fight, and nothing's there. And it's this tension, but it's also this weird, okay, wait a minute, the rope? And then the rope gets pulled and slam, the door opens, and then nothing. Because you can't control the zombies. They're slowly making their way out now that the door opens. So they start slowly coming out. And then the creep slowly makes his way. One creep stepped out from the dark. And he falls off the porch because he's a dumb shit. I don't know why he fell, though. James is going to have to explain that one. I don't think that was in the script. That's when these guys, the Skull Men, that's only their writing code name, they also are designed after motorcycle helmets. The whole tribe wears these skull teeth on their face. There's a reason. Anyway, so the guys run out of the woods. Like, hey, you fucker. And we get recognition from the Guardian leader who says, you walked into a trap that was set for me. They knew I'd be at that cross and I'd order my guards away at a distance. Recently, I injured my leg. They'd know that too. They wanted me, not you. And I thought that it helped putting that in there. That wasn't in there originally where the Guardian leader admitted to it. But I thought at least it helped for the mystery part because it just seemed too odd by itself. Like, who are they? The writer doesn't know them. So having the Guardian admit it, like, listen, relax. They were there for me. They knew I hurt my leg. So now it's hinting that there's more of a beef here than we know of. And we'll find it out later. But these Skull Men, awesome little look to them. They'd still kill him and rob him anyway. So he says, I figured as much. And he cut his horse. This is supposed to be quick. He jumps out of the way. The arrows hit. He actually takes his sword and puts it under the arms of these two to use them as shields to catch the arrows. And then he jams his ice pick in this guy's eye. And he kicks this guy's. And it's all happening quick. It's supposed to be like boom, snap, boom, boom, boom. I mean, it's pretty damn badass. And he sees a shadow from behind the house of the person who pulled the rope. And he stabs that creep. He pulls out his gun. He aims his gun at the shadow. And then he gets bit in the arm. This was one of the more interesting and exciting things when I wrote this originally for the novel because of the bite and the pressure. And the guy comes around the house. He's aiming, you know. He doesn't want to move because it happens within a split second. The guy appears and he shoots him. And then he gets bit in the leg, like all at the same time, back to back. And he throws the one creep, he smacks the other, and then he dispatches these two. But this all, I think, you could see it play out in the comic. But I think I'm more excited for scenes like this if I was ever to see this come to life on screen or something. Because this all right here happens back to back. It is so quick, and it's within a few seconds. So then he looks over back at the shooters, the Skull Men, and one of the Guardians. That's funny. One of the Guardian leader's actual Guardian, actual bodyguard, stabs this guy. We already see that he's done a number already. He cut this guy's gut open, stabbed this guy. The other guy's missing. And then he is looking back, shooting the arrow. And that's the arrow where it went wild, and he figured it was nowhere near him, but it went through his arm and slapped him in the mask. And he pulls it out of his mask. And then he notices that this guy looks mean as shit. He's like, I don't know about this. And it is written to be confusing to a degree because it's to put the reader a little bit into the writer's perspective. And the flow is purposeful. As a writer, I wanted it to be, he's dragging him slowly. He's looking, he's getting off the horse. He's like, all right, you piece of shit. He gets him. There's a little bit of action. Oh, he hits me. I stomp him out. He hits the pole. I beat his ass. Then I zip him, zip, zip, zip. Then I call the zombies. Come on, here we go. I'm contemplating. I'm walking away. It's smooth. It's not real. He's kissing the horse goodbye. He notices something. Wait a minute, something's not right. And then we get even more slow paced. And then there's the whoosh. And then here's, again, we slow it down with the zombies. It keeps going high and low, high and low. And then once this point happens with the bad guys coming, the Skull Men out, once they fire their arrows, from this moment on, this is supposed to be fast-paced and crazy. This is where it picks up the pace, where he's fighting the creeps, and the action picks up. It's intense, and he dodges the arrow. He makes a run for it, but that doesn't work. because here's a guy with a riot gun who's like, ba-bam! And there is a bag there. You can see that right there. It is a riot gun. He shoots him with the bag. And he's laying down. I think the bag's even on the ground. But this is neat. We're going to see this mirrored later on in the story with somebody else, one of the Italian brothers. But he's like, who the fuck are you? Knowing now that he wasn't the original guy that was supposed to get caught in the trap. The rider just accidentally, whoops, wrong place, wrong time. So as he gets hit in the face, it doesn't knock him out, but it's close. He's all like, wait, what? Down here, blood just goes all over. And he's still in the shotgun falls, the knife falls, and those belong to the this guy who's got the shotgun. And he's getting up like, what the hell is going on? And when you turn the page, he stands up and boom, there's Eddie. And this is a member of the Map family. And I believe he bought this page. And because he bought the page, the actual original page from the artist, he got his little name tag in there. And the artist had a picture of him and did a little, like a zombie of the Map member, Eddie. And so he stabs the zombie, and the zombie head slumps down. And he's like, wait, what? Because he didn't fall to the ground. And that's when we get the zombie shield, which is not, the zombie shield wasn't originally in the script at this time, but ever since I mentioned it in a video, which literally jump-started this project, essentially. It was one of the first times I talked about it on this channel. I had to throw it in issue 1 as a little nod to like the audience here that made this possible. So you guys you and your support, you're the reason this one moment happens. It's funny, it happened on the page where a Map member actually paid for this page. And I'm talking about the big, huge thing that the artist draws by hand. And this is a nod to a movie called Dutch, with the guy, Ed O'Neill, I think is his name. He did Married with Children. He gets kicked in the balls, and he's like, what the hell? That's a little nod to it, just a small nod. And he puts the shield down. He stands like a beast. This moment is important because I put these little dots here to help speed this up, because it's going to be a long video. But after the world fell, we inherited this Doomsday Kingdom full of the crazies, monsters, and the dead returning to feast on the living. And the reason it's separated is that's a little hint to the reader. The crazies, monsters, and the dead returning, those are 3 different things. They're not the same name for one. It's not the same name for zombie. Those are literally 3 different things that we're going to find out in this story. And he says lots died with the fevers and more died after. And we already started seeing that in issue 2. That's another hint. One of my favorite quotes: even with so much death, there's no hiding from life. I've seen a few people mention they love that quote too from the comic. Right here it says, our community is worth fighting for, and what we protect now in our community is our gift to the rest of mankind. It is the most important thing we can offer to future generations. Only one big problem, and that's another hint too. And we'll find all this out later on. It's not like you're supposed to guess it perfectly. It's all in danger. They are coming. Those who dodged the apocalypse, and that's another big hint. There's people out there in this world who dodged the apocalypse. They were not in the Doomsday Kingdom. If I told you what they're sending to wipe us all out, your camp after hours, you would think I was a madman. I can show you after you show me who you are. I don't just mean your face. Who are you, friend or foe, good or evil? Will you fight or run? Will you die or will you live? He's just giving a little pep talk there. But again, this is important, and we're going to see this later. If I told you what they are sending to wipe us out, you would think I was a madman, because it is pretty crazy. And then this didn't work. This is funny because I'm waiting for anyone to point this out. What is that chloroform where they put on a rag? It doesn't actually work. If you research it, it doesn't work. He was just so exhausted and beaten up and battered. And this is a part of a comedic moment later on. I was going to just leave this to see who would mention it, but I thought we'll throw that in there. And then it comes to his final little ending that brings it full circle. I thought it best to have you treated while we talked. You will be free to go after if you choose. But if you stay, we must be thorough. I'm not asking where your family is located, And again, he knows more because now he's talking about his family, not just, you know, who he survived with. Specifically, accidentally says family. I will prove all of what I've said. You'll see. I'm not looking for more enemies. I am seeking more allies. War, unlike what we are used to, is coming. I need to know about you, the writer. Who are you? And again, that's what kicks this story off with. If you're reading in a volume, it goes, who are you? And then you go to events in his life, and then bang, you're in the story. Who are you? Seriously, who even are you right now? Where's my brother? What did you do to him? And then she's complaining about fireworks. I love this page. This page right here. The fireworks show. But bam! Here's a little Walking Dead Easter egg. Or a nod. He says, don't listen to these crazy people, honey. Ha ha ha. Look at the awesome fireworks instead of look at the flowers. I just changed like 2 words around. But yeah, so that kicks off the character of Tristan. And we're going to follow Tristan all the way up until a certain point. And then we're going to obviously come back around to what is happening here with the Guardian and everything. I'm not really sure what other questions you guys have as far as issue 1 is concerned. Maybe I didn't explain it as good as I could have. So you know what we're going to do? You guys leave your thoughts, opinions down in that comment box, and I'll try to use that for part 3 as far as the fan feedback. I'll definitely try to do that. In the back of the issue, on this page, is the email for issue 3 and issue 4. If you email that with your thoughts and opinions about issue 1, chances are your comment will make it to the feeding post, which is like the fan email. So the fan mail is going to come here. It's not going to be this all the time because we do have open space for more emails, and it'll be just like a comic in the store where you'll have your name and your opinions and stuff like that. So don't just leave them down in a comment box. If you have something specifically, send it in for issue 1 and issue 2, and it'll be printed in issue 3 most likely. And if we get too many, we'll put it in issue 4 as well. So anyway, this video is way long enough, but it was supposed to be a longer video. So I hope you enjoyed. Again, leave your thoughts and opinions down in that comment box. How do you feel about issue 1, and what's some other stuff we can discuss about it? Love you guys. Thank you for the support. Couldn't have done it without you. This is all because of you guys. Love you very much, and thank you.